The problem with doing something because other people want it, or the problem with doing something because you think it should be a goal that you have, I mean, it's not motivating for anybody, but if you already have a hard time doing things you're not that motivated for, you're just setting yourself up for probably failure, but definitely misery. This is not your thing. Like, you're not invested in this in the same kind of a way, which just sets up kind of more poor performance.
Welcome to the ADHD Social Playbook Podcast. I am your host, Caroline Maguire. Before we get into this is part 2 of a conversation with ADHD expert Dr. Ari Tuckman. So if you have not watched part 1, click on the link in the description below, go back, watch part 1, and then come to part 2. In part 2, we really took a deep dive into how can we as ADHD kids and adults go on task and have motivation, but in an ADHD friendly way. How can we be invested? How can we get things done? This is a topic near and dear to all of our hearts, I'm sure. And Dr. Tuckman's new book has really interesting material on this, and we're going to touch on it in this episode. Let's get into it. I hope you enjoy the conversation as much as I did.
Your experience is far from unique, because, we know that kids with ADHD get far more sort of commands and corrections and criticisms than kids who don't have ADHD, right? And it makes sense. If you're not on task, defined as the thing the adult in the room thinks you should be doing, right? The adult is going to have something to say. And if the adult is having a decent day and they got a good night of rest and they're not cranky, they'll hopefully say it nicely. But if you've done this 10 times today and the adult has the struggles that adults have, right, they may not say it nicely. And it's not just, please don't do that. It's what the hell is wrong with you, right? Which is the whole character thing. It's not I'm not talking about your behavior. I'm talking about you to your core, your essence of who you are, right? So if you get used to a lot of those kinds of comments, you become sort of attuned to them, right? As in who am I pissing off? How am I balancing this relationship? That whole social capital thing of who do I owe and how much. And, that could be with teachers, it's with parents, and it's with friends. It becomes later with, coworkers, bosses, romantic partners, still friends. So it kind of becomes a situation then that it does feel like other people's opinions maybe have a more tangible impact on your life. Like, it does matter what the teacher thinks. It does matter what your boss, or if you got that person in the friend group who, let's just say, has more influence over what other people think than maybe you would hope. It does indeed matter. There's a tangible effect on your life and happiness based on what other people think. So that's just good social skills, right? Being aware of how you're relating to others. But it can become a thing then that you carry that with you, of letting other people tell you about you, right? Tell you about what you did and why you did it and how you should feel about it. And I think there comes a point where it's sort of like, if I'm not having a tangible impact on you, I don't know that you get to vote. And if I am having a tangible impact, you certainly can tell me about that. It really stresses me out when you wait to the last minute or whatever, right? But let's be clear, it stresses me out. I am feeling stressed. It's not that you are making me feel stressed. It's you do a thing and then I have thoughts and feelings about it, right? So maybe the solution is, please do less of that thing. Maybe the solution is, I need to take some deep breaths and not watch too closely what you're doing. Right? There are two options. There's at least two, buckets of options of how we make this a better situation.
And I think there's also this thing of, we have to make sure that middle school kid, that elementary school kid who everybody was sort of reprimanding and correcting, and I think to a fault. I have parents where the school and the teacher writes them every night about stuff that they cannot control. I'm not there. I'm not in the classroom with you. I'm not able to reprimand or tell them. It's so painful for these parents. Mm-hmm. And I'm always like, why are you writing these emails? They can't do anything about it. They're not there. But
Yeah.
I feel like that history creates this susceptibility. And what I loved about the fact that you address this around productivity is, you know, that saps your confidence,
Hmm.
which saps your ability to try these strategies. And it's also like at some point, a good boundary can be to be thinking you don't get a vote, and even to say, why do you always comment, because
Yes.
it's really, I find it so obnoxious. I'm like,
Yeah.
why are you commenting on this
Yes.
person?
But let me put a spotlight on that, because that's an important shift, right? Because if what it does is it changes the subject, right? If they say, why do you, you should start earlier, why do you always have to wait to the last minute? Now, the obvious response is to get into a debate about, like, it's fine, I get it done anyway, I don't know what the big deal is, right? And that is the original topic. But the higher level, maybe not quite meta, but the higher level is, why do you need to comment on this? Right? Like, that is a different topic, but that's a more important topic, right? Is, I understand you feel anxious about it, but number one, do you necessarily have to comment on it? Also, number two, is the way that you're commenting on it the best and most respectful? Is it the most respectful way? Is it the most effective way at getting me to do anything different? Or does it make me think in my head, go to hell, screw you? You think that was late? Watch the next one.
Like you just blew up the whole thing.
Yeah.
Which some people do,
Yeah.
and I feel like, so this is where I think people have, one of my big things, as you know, is you get to choose your friends, you get to choose who you're around. Even I would argue, people are going to think I'm crazy, you get to choose your job, right?
Yeah.
If you get to a point where you're managing your ADHD to a certain point, you will have more options and you will not be hanging on to your job by your fingernails. And at which point you can choose to be around people who treat you decently.
Yes.
And to me, this whole commenting thing, I obviously have big feelings about, because I'm like, I see it so often, and I just really feel like there comes a point where that person isn't really your friend if they're going to comment like that. And when you explain, or when you say, like, hey, I'm good with it, my spouse is good with it, my kids are good with it, they continue. And I watch so many people um, feel badly because of this. And it really breaks my heart,
Yeah.
because I'm like, I would be like, bye bye.
Yeah. I know.
I would not take it. But I used to take it.
Right, right. And that is the lifelong training, is, if there's a problem, it's probably you, right? And
Right.
then so you take it. Or you go
Right.
the other way and you get oppositional, you say, screw you. But that's still, I mean, oppositionality is not independence. You're still equally dependent. Like, the other person's actions determine yours, right? Whether
Right.
you crash into guilt and go, I'm so sorry, what can I do to make it up to you? Or you say, screw you, and you give them the finger and you go the other way. They're still deciding what you do,
Oh,
right?
so true.
As opposed to, as an independent person, I'm going to make my own decision about what I do here.
And that goes back to your section on goals, because
Hmm.
it's got to be your goal, your motivation, and it's going to be your unique motivation, I think, is
Yeah.
really clear to me, and not what other people want.
I mean, the problem with doing something because other people want it, or the problem with doing something because you think it should be a goal that you have, I mean, it's not motivating for anybody. But if you already have a hard time doing things you're not that motivated for, you're just setting yourself up for probably misery, or probably failure, but definitely misery, you know? Because it's like, this is not your thing. Like, you're not invested in this in the same kind of a way, which just sets up kind of more poor performance.
Yeah, you're creating like this self-fulfilling prophecy, right? Where you're just like, oh, yeah, so I'm doing what other people want, and now I can't do it as well. And so it doesn't work out. Like, it just all becomes a cycle.
Yeah. Now, having said that, we all got to suck it up sometimes, right? As in, like, this class is terrible, this professor is ridiculous, but I can't finish my major unless I take it. Or, this boss is a jerk off, but, I need this job. And if I do a good job here, I can then, apply to a better job later or something, right? Like now that doesn't mean that other people's bad behavior is okay. It still isn't. But there's a difference between I am making a choice out of my own agency and free will that I will benefit from staying in this situation. Like I will be better off for suffering through this versus I deserve to be treated badly. And besides, I don't have any better options. So I guess I got to stick around, right? Like that's an abusive relationship, versus, I don't know, we've all had classes we suffered through because we had to, but, we got a degree and we moved on. Bye-bye. Thank you very much.
Well, and also, I talk a lot about this with younger people where I'm like, this job as a financial analyst is something you have to suffer through, and it's not your favorite part. But if you want to run the company or you want to do something sexier, if you want to do something that's more fun, that's the mastery level, you have to master this level. And it stinks, and we've all been there. I mean, I had a job in the early 2000s where the lights used to shut off because I was after 9/11, and myself and one other guy were the only survivors of 9 rounds of layoffs. And we would be in the department and there wasn't enough movement and the lights would shut off on us. So it's but it was like, there's a difference where you're like, I'm staying in this job because I want to, because I'm going to master it and then I'm going to move to the next level, or I'm going to stay here. I'm going to, pay my mortgage, whatever, versus like, I'm trapped. And I'm trapped, going back to productivity, right? I'm trapped because I can't get stuff done.
Yeah. Yeah. And that is exactly it, right? Like, I want you to stay in a job because you're choosing to. And when it's time to go, I want it to be because you are making the choice, because the timing is your timing, as opposed to you got written up and now you're getting fired and it's not your timing.
Right. And that's why I was really excited about this book on productivity, because I think that this cycle, it's not just hacks, right? And so many times when people talk about productivity, they talk about like, if you go to Staples and you buy everything there,
right?
Like, no, but seriously,
then you're gonna have a bunch of crap in your living room that your spouse is gonna be like, why did you buy all this stuff?
Right. But it's a common ADHD thing. Like if you stood in a ballroom at the international conference and says, how many people like have been to these office supply stores like a million times and bought like everything, everyone would raise their hand. Like I took a course from like Palm Pilot once, like back in the day, right?
Yes.
Like they were like, you can be more productive if you take this. And I was like, oh, okay.
Sure.
Here's my money.
Yeah.
Save me. But
right.
I think like what I like about this is you're talking about like the actual how to be more productive, strategies. And then you're also talking about like, this is the motivation and the philosophical and the things that go into this and why this isn't just going to the office supply store. Because if that were the case, that would be what we would do and we'd be done.
I know. I don't remember seeing a prescription for like more highlighters and, a better at-a-glance schedule book or something. So, and I mean, that's the thing. Like I had this kind of like, I don't know, anger, possibly rage about, some of the stuff that's out there, like any of these sort of like programs that promise too much, right? And they use words like transformational or life-changing or revolutionary. And I'm just like, dude, there is no possible, like, no, I don't know who you are, but there's no possible way you did not discover some brilliant thing that all of civilization up to this point in history no one has discovered this, but like you figured it out, and besides the fact that it's just kind of stupid and annoying, what really bothers me about it is that people buy it because they're desperate, right? They buy it because they really want to be better. And I completely empathize with that desire. Nobody needs more failures. Nobody needs more things they wasted money on and feel bad about themselves and feel foolish or feel like the program was valid, but they failed at it, right? It's sort of like, great, not only do I suck at life, I also suck at like, being revolutionary or whatever the hell, right? So,
I was not transformational and it's all my fault.
exactly. I have not become a phoenix reborn from the ashes. So like it makes me crazy. And the thing of it is, like, I don't know when I see stuff like this, is this person just naive and they don't know, like the person who's selling it, right? That they genuinely believe it, but they have no idea how anything, like they haven't met people, like they don't understand that life is hard and people are complicated, right? So are they naive or are they just liars? Like, do they absolutely know, like, this does not work, as probably like the marketing guys have gone insane with this and this is completely being oversold for what it offers? So they're either naive or they're liars. And I like both of them, I feel angry about.
Well, one of the things I always say is, if there was one thing, because a lot of times their descriptions are like, it's transformational, it's revolutionary, and there's like one thing you need to do, right? Is what I always say to people. If there was only one thing, don't you think in the past 25 years, I would have done it and
Right.
other people like me,
Yeah.
and that this would
Yes.
be like on the front page of the New York Times, right? Like,
Yeah.
there's only one thing you need to do. And then like this, they would love that. Insurance companies
Yeah.
would love that. We'd be
I
done.
know.
It would be like, whatever. I am more cynical. So you're taking a very charitable approach that maybe they're naive. I'm cynical. I think it's about taking advantage of people who are desperate. And I think that maybe I'm just not a snazzy enough marketer, but I really feel like it's also just, I remember being that person who was like, I have to find a way to make this work. And so it would have been very appealing to me, like if the internet had really existed back then. And I think, you know, there's another piece in why I would talk about your productivity book, which is that it's for ADHD people. And a lot of these things that people are desperately seeking, they are for typical people. And I don't know what it's like to be typical. It sounds kind of awesome, but it also sounds kind of boring. But what I do know is that I spent the first 25 years of my life doing things, trying to do the things that typical people did, and it was only when I got a diagnosis and I started doing things differently that I actually stopped running out of gas on the side of the road, which is something that bothers my husband. That was his one deal breaker. He's very cool about time, but he was not happy about the gas thing.
And that's fine. Like, you get a few, you know what I mean? Right? Like, sometimes you just got to take one for the team. And sometimes, like, okay, yeah, I get it. And sometimes, like, I don't understand why you care about this, but okay, fine. I care about you. So here we go.
Well, it's snowstorms, Ari. We have snowstorms in the Northeast. And if you have to bring me gas, you've sometimes had to walk through the snow. There are definite reasons.
I'm going to give him this one. Yeah. So, I mean, and that's the thing, right? Like, this stuff, it is hard and it is important to find the stuff that really works for you under this at this moment in your life, for this specific thing that you need to do. And, part of what makes me angry about these sort of bogus overpromises is that they use up optimism, right? In that then, the next time there's something that actually could be helpful, you're like, I've tried that before, I'm not going to do it. Right. So a therapist or a coach who doesn't know ADHD, you've seen a couple of them, where you've seen a prescriber who, was prescribing you antidepressants or, like, God forbid, bipolar meds. And, like, they never really did everything they need to. So you're like, now I'm not taking meds. I've tried it. They don't work. Or, just trying the things that really do make a difference. So, like, there's that cost as well. It's not just the wasted week or whatever. It's if another month or 6 months or a year. This is especially true for teenagers, right? You only get so many bites at the apple with those guys, right? Like, you're squandering opportunities.
Yeah, I was just talking to the mother of a teenager because my husband says I can't go anywhere without talking about ADHD, and like it's the truth. But like, you're on the sideline of the
Guilty.
game and the mother says, I'm desperate. I can't get my kid to do anything or whatever. You're somewhere. And I'm like, oh, I'm an ADHD coach. What's going on? And then before you know it, you have a room full of people talking to you about ADHD. It's
Yeah.
just a thing.
And half of them are
And,
crying. Yeah.
and half of them are crying. But like, what had happened was the kid had gone to a psychiatrist. The psychiatrist wasn't good. They prescribed them antidepressants. They prescribed them a bunch of stuff that I was like, no, although I'm not qualified to diagnose or to give medication. They were really burned by the process because it didn't go well. It took a lot of time. It took a lot of energy. And I see this with adults too. And then now the kid's like, I'm not doing anything, right? Because I was better off before. And you robbed me of all this time. I feel worse about myself. I feel physically worse. And then they're like, I'm not going to do anything about my ADHD. And I also see this online tons. Like people will comment on someone's post on Instagram. And it's all I can do not to be like, no, don't give up hope.
Yeah, I know. It does make a difference when there are people who are putting out real content and, who know what they're talking about, have invested in understanding it and, are accurate in what they're saying. Because like inaccurate, misinformed ideas are rarely helpful, right? Like they just don't help. And, I mean, I don't know if we want to get political here at the very end, but, like there are things in our federal government that are coming out about ADHD that are just dead wrong. Like they are not, they're like Bill Dodson said, the term we should use is settled science, right? This is not under debate. There's not debate in the field like, oh, we're not sure about ADHD or we're not sure about whether medication is safe and effective. It's like, no, we are sure. We are sure. If you're raising questions, it's because you don't either, at best, you don't know the science, or again, you are selling something and lying, right? You're selling an agenda, you're selling a product, there's some other thing going on there. Like, that you can say, I don't like the idea of ADHD, or I don't like the idea of medication for kids or whatever. And that's fine. Anybody can have any opinion. But, when it comes down to what does science tell us, what do we know to be true, what should we base individual treatment decisions on, or even more so, public policy on, you can't just base it on your opinion. I mean, on that logic, I think the earth is flat because I've never seen it round, right? So, like that's ridiculous.
Yeah, and I think that this goes back to people not getting help because there's so much shame, so much stigma. And one of my things is, would certain big newspapers have published something if it was diabetes or
Yeah.
depression or anxiety? Would
Yep.
they have dared to manipulate the science and manipulate the message? I don't think so. I don't
Yeah.
think so.
Yeah.
And I think that what's saddest about this for me is I'm at a point in my journey where I know the settled science and I'm pretty confident about this one thing.
Hmm.
And when people say stuff, I'm like, whatever. But a lot of people get a message at the pharmacy. I've had pharmacists say stuff to me, really obnoxious stuff they should not say. Other people scuttle away and don't come back,
Hmm.
right? I report them because that's
Good.
not okay. You're not supposed to be commenting on things. But the
Yeah.
problem is other people go away and they don't come back, right? Other people read something and they don't come back and they feel that shame. And that bothers me, like the
I
shyster
know.
language bothers you.
I know. I know. No, I have that same thing. It makes me want to go down there and yell at them, because again, it's like, why do you feel you have the right to comment here? Like back to what we were saying before. Like, you can have any opinion you want. I didn't come here to ask you your opinion about this. Also, by the way, ethically, as a licensed healthcare provider, as a pharmacist, you have an obligation to say things that are accurate. I mean, as a psychologist, if I did the marketing, I would literally lose my license. Like I would be brought up on ethical charges, I would lose my license. So kind of the same deal, I don't think a pharmacist could lose their license by some snarky comment, but I am absolutely sure it is against the ethical guidelines and is malpractice-ish, for them to make comments that are inaccurate based on the science and are just based on personal agenda.
Right. Absolutely. I'm sure it is. And I will give credit to the pharmacy manager and chain. They were not happy. But,
Good.
the problem is that I think this goes back to this is why productivity isn't simple, right? And this is why it's complicated. This is why the book is, what did you say, 36 chapters, 39
Yeah,
chapters?
yeah, exactly.
It has to be. If there's one thing you really like about this book, you really feel like it's super helpful, like what's the thing that you're like, this is the thing I'm most feel like people need to know in this book or that I want them to read about?
I think it's, I think there's a lot of things, but I think it's this last thing we were saying, right? It's that there's 36 chapters. Now, granted, they're short chapters, so it's not like an 8,000 page book, but it's kind of two things. It's the two sides of the coin that on the one hand, if you have struggled with being consistently productive, there's a lot of reasons why that could be. So don't feel stupid that you couldn't figure it out. And that the point of the book is to say, here is a whole bunch of different things that could potentially be impacting your productivity. These are the places to look, right? When you're feeling stuck, when you can't figure it out, here are some things to consider. So you can kind of, I don't know, spot it when you see it. And then here are some things you can do about it.
I like that. I think that that's really the tenor of the book for me because to me, like, look, there's strategies in this book and they're great strategies, but it's not the hacks that hold us back. It's the need to problem solve and sort of diagnose what's going on. And sadly, each of us is different. So I can't just do a one
Yeah.
size fits all. I wish I
Yeah.
could.
Yeah, exactly. If only it was that easy.
It would be great. Thank you, Ari. And everybody go out and get the ADHD productivity manual. And Ari is friend to the podcast, so you will be seeing a lot of Ari.
Awesome. I love hanging out with you and talking shop. This is great.
Thank you.